Dad, let's face it. You'll be dead soon.
I'm 55.
And unless you leave the store in capable hands, it'll die with you. For years, Trout Plus has been a leader in the outdoors. But what if we thought bigger? What if we brought the outdoors indoors? Over 50% of the Earth is inside. Did you know that? Without realizing it, we've been cutting our own sales in half. Let's bust it open, Dad. Nasty style. Trout Plus everything.
Oh, so we could just sell anything?
Anything.
That's great. Monocles.
Absolutely.
Wizard's hats.
Why not?
A bidet that shoots gravy at your ass.
So you don't like the idea?
Surely this is not all you have.
Okay, I've been working on something else. I'll pitch it to you, but it's not fully developed.
I'm ready. I can handle it, I think.
Okay. Hair salon for boys.
Oh, this is fantastic.
You like it?
Of course.
It's just like a social place for young boys to come and hang out like older ladies do at the salon.
Every boy's dream is to be an older woman.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yes. Woo!
Never show this idea to anyone. Ever.
If you have not seen Please Don't Destroy the Treasure of Foggy Mountain on Peacock, I highly recommend it. It's ridiculous. And we talked last week about how are they going to get around the thing that they're known for creating at the maximum 3-minute shorts for Saturday Night Live. How are they going to get around making a 90-minute movie? The answer, they just never stop. It never slows down. There's never a breath to take.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way they do it. Just power through. And Conan O'Brien deserves all of the Emmys.
And that is the only thing I'm going to say on the subject here. And we are just waiting for our special guest to be showing up very shortly, because you're probably noticing right now, we're not in studio right now. We are.
I am.
Well, you're in the Sugar House Studios in Sosala, whereas I am recording in Wejo, and we are waiting for our special guest star, who is, as I found out, the thing went to spam because...
Oh, good.
Yeah. So we're totally on time for another TV Tam podcast, episode 0471, and we are live on air as far as anybody is concerned here. And
we're trying out a new remote podcasting service, since the other one decided not to let us do it for free anymore.
Yeah.
And we are nothing but cheap. So therefore we went to the next best free one, and we'll see how it works. But if you're hearing this, that means it worked. If you don't see one this week, that means it didn't.
And more importantly, if you decide you want to donate to us so that we can actually I'm just saying, and people are saying, I am hearing, if you want to, you could just send us money. We love money. So until one of the TV execs decides to send money our way, looking at you, David Zaslas, I'm seeing what you're throwing money on, and it is garbage. We are not garbage. Throw money our way is all I ask.
To our garbage. I do not concur with this send us money message. I say don't send us money.
Why?
I don't think we've earned it.
Bullshit. We have earned it every step of the way for 471 episodes with me, Tommy Milagro.
And me, Bill Frost, and we have a mystery guest who may possibly be joining us at some point here. And we're not going to tell you who it is, because it is someone from the world of professional wrestling.
Oh my God! Look at this man right here as we are recording live on air. Special guest star, please introduce yourself as we are running at this point.
Hey, I'm Boris Roberto Aguilar, and man, I don't even know what I do. I do so much, a little too much sometimes. But Yeah, I'm a podcaster, host of Sunday Night's Main Event Radio, and so much more in between there.
And
And
it
that
should.
explains why you have a professional microphone as opposed to Tommy Milagro, who
Yes.
has his call center mic on.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But
There you go.
But more importantly here, spoiler alert, yes, there is a brown person that goes by the name of Boris. And secondly, I should point out, he and I, we write for slamwrestling.net, although he doesn't have an MBA quite just yet. I do.
Exactly.
So, and Boris, just because it came in late and we are running hot as we speak, the drinking game is anytime I mention I write for Slam Wrestling and I mention my MBA, you got to take a drink. So, cheers to that.
Amazing.
Mm,
Cheers. Cheers.
yeah.
All right.
And he is.
All right. Before we get.
Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to say before we get to Boris, I had to mention a couple things coming up on TV this week. See, Boris, this is a podcast about television and what you should watch and what you maybe shouldn't watch. And despite it being a Thanksgiving weekend week, we got some new stuff coming up. Namely, Tuesday, the 21st, season 5 of Fargo. Finally,
yeah.
finally here. We have John Hamm in here, Juno Temple, and Jennifer Jason Leigh. John Hamm is a lawman. He's searching for someone who is definitely hiding in plain sight. That is Juno Temple. She is not necessarily a happy housewife, and her mother-in-law, Jennifer Jason Leigh, is very well aware of this. And shit's going to go down. Also on Tuesday, that's on FX. On Tuesday on Hulu, a new Irish import series called Obituary. Now, this, as a former newspaper writer, I can relate to this. Elvira is her name. She writes obituaries for the Killraven Chronicle, which is a baller name for a newspaper. And but she gets paid by the obituary. She's not on salary. She gets paid by the obituary. So she starts killing some people. They're not pleasant people. They deserve it. So she'll have material to write about. Wednesday sees the premiere of Good Burger 2.
Ooh.
I know. Did you know it was coming? I didn't think so.
I was wondering what was going on with Kellen Keenan right there. Which, quickly here, Boris, these shows that we're talking about, do you get them anywhere in Canada?
Yep.
Oh, and
Yeah, some of them.
Okay.
For the most part. Yeah.
and we're gonna talk to you about what you're watching a little harder in your corner of Toronto. You're in Toronto, right? So,
Yep.
okay.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
All right.
Also on Wednesday on Netflix, Squid Game: The Challenge. This is the real life Squid Game, but you don't get killed, unfortunately.
Why?
I think there's some laws around that. And coming up on Saturday, Doctor Who, the Star Beast. Doctor Who is now part of Disney Plus. So there you go. Doctor Who is now a Disney thing.
Okay.
And on Sunday,
but we get David Tennant back, and everyone's going to be happy with that.
we got David Tennant back, and on Sunday we finally got the long-awaited season 12 of Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Ooh.
Coming at you.
And
Yeah.
so Master Shake and
They're all back.
and everyone's happy, and no one's got canceled, as far as we know. I'm just only asking.
Maybe after this new season, they will possibly be very canceled.
Now,
And now
yes,
we're on to the man of the hour, Boris here. Set it up, Tommy. What's he gonna tell us?
Well, and again, Boris is coming to us. He is a podcaster force du jour, and he is the man when it comes to Sunday night's main event podcast, among other things. He has co-hosted with, correct me if I'm wrong here, Boris, Chris Van Vliet. Am I pronouncing that right? Vliet?
Yep.
Okay. And I've said, hey, you should come to our podcast as opposed to me coming to his podcast. And mostly just to prove to Mr. Frost here, there is a brown person named Boris that I've been talking to all these years. So
I was skeptical.
But then again, we should point out that TV10 Podcast is the most internationally recognized podcast at this stage in the game. But this is the segment, Boris, that we are going to ask you, what the fuck are you watching?
Oh man, you know what? I've been so busy lately. I haven't been able to catch too much. So I think, right?
Hmm.
But like, it's stupid how much TV I actually end up
Oh,
watching.
good.
Um, I've actually been watching. So obviously, like things like Loki, I was able to kind of catch up and finish that. That was probably one of the latest things that I probably watched. Just kind of ended recently, right? Been rewatching a lot of things like Suits, for example. I'm actually rewatching that right
Oh,
now.
you're that
It's
person.
one of those. Yeah, I'm the person. I'm the person.
Now,
But
were
honestly,
you organically drawn to Suits, or did you notice the groundswell of people watching it and say, "Hey, I should get in on that"?
no, I probably started before like a lot of people started really watching it. It was just something I randomly saw on Netflix here in Canada, and we're talking like 2000, I want to say 12, 13 or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So as it was coming out, I was basically watching it. Similar to Breaking Bad, right? Like it's kind of funny. Breaking Bad was another show that I just randomly started watching as it was coming out, and then it kind of just blew up into something, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I spend way too much watching reality TV,
Oh,
and like I'll be
We,
the
we we
first
always
person.
want to hear about reality TV because neither of us follow it, so we need some insight into the world of reality TV
uh,
from anybody.
correction. We only hear about reality TV except for one of our reality correspondents. You've probably seen her work, Boris, and that's our friend Melissa Merlot, who's in Utah. So, having said that, which we'll get to Merlot in a second, what sort of reality are you watching?
Yeah, so I'm a Bravo guy. I watch a lot of the stupid Bravo shows. It's such mindless stupidity that it gives me the opportunity to just do a million other things. And yeah, it's honestly, it makes my life feel so much better half the time.
So it's background
But
noise for you.
yeah, for the most part, right? But the thing is, like, I can sit down and talk to you for hours about these shows. Like, for example, Below Deck. That's something that
Mhm.
doesn't matter what version of it is. I will watch whatever Below Deck, whether it be Mediterranean, the regular, sailing yacht, adventure, Australia, whatever. I'll watch all of the Below Decks. Just absolutely love them. In terms of Vanderpump Rules, how can someone not watch Vanderpump Rules? Love that shit. Love that stuff way too much. And that was something I started watching randomly in the middle of the pandemic. I'm telling you, the pandemic changed us a lot, made me start watching reality TV again. So, yeah, Vanderpump Rules is something that I just started randomly watching, still watch it, and absolutely adore it. Maybe a little too much that I would like to admit. In terms of the Real Housewives, the only one that I really watch is Beverly Hills, and that's the Lisa Vanderpump connection, right?
Mhm.
And I continued watching that for the most part, and it was just the only one that really intrigues me. I've tried watching the other ones, and it's not really too into it. Salt Lake is one that I kind of like.
Yep.
That's an interesting one. It's just the dynamic of the whole cultural religion and the back and forth,
Yeah.
right? I really do it. It's so intriguing to me. So I do kind of watch that
Yeah.
one. And seeing someone go down and sent to prison in the middle of recording is always something that you like to watch as well, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so in terms of the
And I will say this to Real Housewives: the only thing that's actually interesting about it is the aforementioned person that's in jail right now. What's her name? Jennifer Shaw.
Shaw,
Yeah,
yep,
her husband Sharif Shaw is the offensive coordinator for the University of Utah, and he's still doing his thing. He's living his best life outside of jail. But beyond that, it's like unless I was talking to Merlot, I just wouldn't know what the fuck I should care about with Salt Lake there. But you've kind of proven that the only way Salt Lake's interesting is if it's like you said, it's a whole cultural thing that not many people, Americans or Canadians, are used to at this point.
yep. That's exactly it, right? Like it's interesting. And the way that they kind of portray Salt Lake is so weird. They make it seem like it's like Narnia or something. It's crazy to actually see.
Seriously, when you talk to people in your world, do they see Salt Lake as Narnia at this point? I mean,
Yeah, it's this weird place where people don't drink and it snows and like it's
Well, you're half
right.
right. You're half right.
Exactly,
We got
exactly,
a lot of drinkers here
oh yeah.
because of
exactly.
where we are. But yeah, most of it, I think most of it, from what I know, takes place in Park City, which is not exactly Salt Lake City. It's
No,
more. It's where the elite rich folk like Tommy Milagro come from.
I mean,
There you go.
I people are saying I am hearing. Yes, I am from Park City. No, I'm not that rich asshole. I'm just an asshole in general, not just because I I got my MBA and also that I write for SlamWrestling.net. I'm just saying it.
You don't really have a lot of Park City cred. You don't ski.
Nope,
You can't get into Sundance.
no,
And really, you probably couldn't even afford to hang out up there for like more than a day or so. So your Park City credentials are severely lacking for being a native.
in my defense, nobody can afford Salt Lake unless you were somebody from Real Housewives. So, but then here's the other side of that. I got to hang out with people from Real Housewives. Why the fuck do I want to do that? I barely was able to survive my high school reunion. So, but
So
yeah.
so Boris, you're obviously into the BravoVerse of all things reality.
Yep.
What's probably the most obscure reality show you watch that people might not recognize?
Oh man, so there was one in Bravo. I even forget the name of it. It was this Latino family, and it took place in San Antonio or something like that. It
What?
was it was essentially Real Housewives, but a bunch of Latinas yelling at each other. So it sounded like it was wild. It was absolutely wild. It lasted, I think, one season, and they didn't even have the balls to call it like Real Housewives of San Antonio. It was like I forget what it was called, but yeah, it was this weird show with a bunch of Latinos and Latinas just going at it.
You just described my family reunions in Ogden, Utah,
Exactly.
and you probably just described your reunions in California. So,
Was it called Texicanas?
That's the one.
okay,
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely obscure. I'd never heard of it.
Yep.
okay.
It was so weird. It was so weird. It only lasted a season, and it was just so random. And literally, the only reason I watched it was because I am Latino, right? Like it, and I randomly watched it with my sister. Again, something I did in the pandemic. I stayed with my parents a little bit. They were older, so they needed a little more help.
Yeah.
So I stayed with them, and yeah, that's what got me into the whole reality stuff.
Bigger question: how triggering was it watching Texicanas? Let's start there.
Oh, very much so. It was more of a reminder of why I will never ever marry a Latino.
Yeah,
That's ultimately what it was. Between that and just staying with my parents longer than 2 hours, like that was it. I was done.
that is what I wanted to hear. So I salute you for that, sir. So, and also our good friends at Sugar House Distilleries, American Single Malt Whiskey salutes you as well. After a 4-year age bottle, that is the only way to deal with family. So that's the closest I'm ever going to get towards, you know, uh, segueing in our sponsors, which there are a few of them, which we'll talk about later. But
Did we forget to mention then up top?
well, you kind of mentioned that you were doing something with uh, what? Who do you have over there in your side of things?
I have the raspberry lemonade vodka in a can. Very tasty, more of a summery drink, and it's actually turning to winter finally here in Utah.
And
It's been extended late summer for up until like last week.
what about you, Boris? What, if anything, are you having up there in the Great North?
In terms of like booze wise, man, it's just I'm having random stuff. Actually, right now, so this week, it's my birthday on Friday, so I'm gonna do
Oh,
a haul. You have to remember that here in Canada, booze is super fucking expensive. It's not this weird thing, like, and it just, yeah, you have to actually plan your trips ahead. I can't
Whoa.
go to the corner store and just pick up whatever I want, right? Like, I have to actually plan things. There are, look, I live downtown Toronto. There's LCBO stores all around me, but it's something that I actually have to think about. But there's this new thing that I've tried recently. I actually don't have it near me. It's called Screwball Whiskey. It's this whiskey infused with peanut butter.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I've seen it here in our corner of the world. So
It's not the worst. It's not the worst. It's not the worst. I don't like a lot of the infused stuff because they're usually really, really sweet. But if you're making like a mixed drink, like maybe even, oh, you know what? I might even try it, like a milkshake or something. Add a little bit of that stuff. I'm pretty sure that's how it would go well. But on its own, I don't like it. Like there's this like the Wisers with apple. Not a fan of that stuff. Things like that. I don't like that infused mixed stuff. I'm a whiskey drinker, straight up. The smokier, the better for
Ooh,
me.
okay.
There's one called Canamera. Oh, the peatiness on that one is just perfection.
all right.
Absolute perfection. I just love it.
What I'm hearing from you is that we need to get one of our sponsors like this over to you, and you can reciprocate on our end. I'm not telling you what to do with your life. I'm just saying be a lot cooler, and we can establish that connections. I can only do so much with our
Exactly.
Canadians here, but technically not a Canadian, but
Canadian for all intents and purposes.
All right.
For all intents and purposes, I'm Canadian.
yeah.
I've lived here longer than everywhere else, so
Now, I do want to ask you this, and this is the other reason I asked you to come on board with this. Not only just to prove to Mr. Frost that, yeah, I know somebody named Boris, but no,
or that you have any friends, period. Yeah.
no, that's the other thing.
whoa, hold on. Friend, Bill, we work together.
Yeah,
We do stuff.
Not
We
friends.
never... Friend,
Let's not overstate it.
exactly.
right.
Okay.
Okay. Now that we got that out of the way, So
Okay.
yeah, we're kind of we're work buddies or rivals. I don't know. But here is a serious question there. So we talked last week on our podcast about a show called Blackberry, which is now on AMC. Once upon a time, you, sir, worked for Blackberry. So my questions are, number one, had you seen the movie Blackberry? And number two, when you were there, how close do you think it was?
So, interestingly enough, a couple things there. I was actually for some context, I worked at BlackBerry from 2007 until 15. So I was there for essentially the shitfall, and like I only got a few months of about a year of like things are still great, and then everything went to hell basically, which is essentially when that movie came out.
Mhm.
So like the time that movie was taking place. So few things about that movie. I have watched it. It was fairly accurate to a certain extent.
Oh.
It was a lot more accurate than I thought it was going to be, and they kind of capture the feeling that a lot of people were having. So, that whole the iPhone thing, whatever, right? Where it was kind of a 50-50 split in terms of should we worry about this? We're fine. That's honestly how it was. Except here's how it actually was. It was management who was, oh, don't worry, we'll be fine. And it was all of the employees saying, what are we doing to counter Apple? What's the plan? The consumers, and then like the powers that be were so cocky. They were just so sure of themselves that it was this wild ride of don't worry, nothing is gonna change. And we're all like, well, this is kind of cool. We're consumers too. We love the company. So what's the plan? And to be honest, at that point, they just started throwing so much shit at the wall and seeing what stuck. We were stuck with an old code base, an old OS that it really hurt us. So we had to eventually update that, and by the time that we did update that, it was a little too late.
Mhm.
Also, kind of like BlackBerry was very enterprise based. Consumer wasn't really something that they thought about, and by consumer I mean regular Joes
Mhm.
versus Fortune 500 companies buying them in bulk, right? And governments buying them in bulk. So they didn't really understand the consumer market. They got the consumer market through luck, in my opinion, with the BlackBerry Pearl and things like that, where it was the only thing on the market at the time, and it was better than Palm. That's all you needed to do was be better than the Palm
Yeah.
Pilot, right? Which really wasn't hard. And Nokia, they didn't really have anything to that effect. So the consumer market was pretty much wide open. But what's funny, what really hurt the Blackberries more is the fact that there were no apps. And the whole
Yeah.
idea of apps, and this is why I love Apple marketing, especially back then. You understand why there's apps, right? Like you know why we have apps. Because it was literal limitations on their phone, that their phone couldn't use the internet, couldn't render the websites properly. So they had to create these side apps to load. And that's how you use, your email and things like that. So the way that BlackBerry was thinking about stuff was, we have it all embedded. We don't need apps. But the consumers were told by Apple that apps are cool, right? So it was this weird not understanding of what the consumer market really wanted. So in that sense, it was portrayed very much like that. The whole debacle with the BlackBerry Storm, I can tell you, I saw and lived it and was there firsthand. That was the first consumer product that I was a part of. I was one of I was a part of the team that was coding it. I remember being called into a meeting, and it was, Project X, and then it turned into Project Thunder. And we're like, oh, what's the phone going to be called when it reaches market? The Storm. Okay, cool. So
Yep.
that's creative, guys.
Yeah.
I've worked at companies
so,
like this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was so wild.
I was at Verizon.
The
I
idea
had
was
the
cool.
Storm, and I was like, oh, so this is the thing. Okay. So
It was honestly it was meant to really go to consumers. It
No.
was something that they were testing, and it was, at the time, we were working on a new OS, but the OS just wasn't working out, so we released it with the BlackBerry OS. And well, we started getting parts from China, and well, the movie was pretty accurate. Yeah, I'm sure your Storm broke. Like, I know a lot of people whose Storm literally broke the day that they got it. So that
Ooh,
was just
wow.
a huge fiasco. It was really embarrassing and really bad in that sense. So the movie really portrayed that part of the story really, really well, where it was like this back and forth of, we're fine, and it's a lot of people saying, no, we're not.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the we were talking about this last week because AMC just released it as an expanded version of the movie. It has like about 16 minutes more footage, and they made it into a 3-part miniseries. And one of the things I read about the inventor, he just loved the clackety clack of that keyboard so much. And when he saw the iPhone with the on-screen touch, he was like, he just could not wrap his head around it. He was just like, I don't know how to counter this.
Bigger.
Yeah, that's honestly how it was. Like, it was such an interesting dilemma, and being in the same room as some of the people that you saw in the movie, and like seeing the real life portrayals of these people was so interesting. You know, what I like about the Blackberry movie is that it actually happened, right? But it was kind of like that intrigue of *Halt and Catch Fire*, which is
Yes.
honestly
Yeah.
one of my absolute favorite shows
Mhm.
in history. One of the most underrated shows, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Period.
Yes, totally agree.
Right? And just seeing this thing actually happen and then seeing it on the screen was just wild. What's interesting though is a lot of people think, we're still, everyone who graduated, as we like to say, aka got fired from BlackBerry, you think that we would hold something against the company. We really don't. A lot of us, like, people, I started working there in my early 20s. A lot of people were in their early 20s, and so we kind of grew up all together. People got married, people started families, people bought their homes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So regardless of what happened with the company, everyone, and we all still hold a very, very, nice little place in our heart. So when the movie came out, there were actually a shit ton of screenings in Waterloo, Ontario
Ooh.
for the BlackBerry movie.
Wow.
Okay, that makes
Like,
sense.
with some of the people that were in the movie too.
Okay.
But like, literally, like, buy a theater and send out tickets to former employees and stuff like that. And it was just absolutely wild. It was absolutely wild. And for the most part, everyone kind of accepts it. Like, it wasn't far off. It wasn't this like over dramatized thing that happened. So I think that overall they did a great job. And in the future, At the time that we were going through it, we always said this is going to be an excellent chapter of many business books in the future, and it honestly is.
Okay.
Marketing, business, so many different subjects that you can cover on the downfall of BlackBerry. But at the end of the day, it just came down to arrogance,
Mm-hmm.
and not
Did you
cartel
ever
arrogance,
did
Tommy.
you ever expect to see a movie about it?
No, I would never would have thought that anyone look us in the geek world. We know that like how bad it is. So how can you portray these geeks as like lovable, likable people? And they've been able to do that. What I was afraid of, like this weird portrayal of of Jim Balsillie and everyone of like to the degree that the Social Network did, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I was expecting,
Mm.
but they were able to honestly capture this like small town feel that Waterloo, Ontario is, and they did a great job of that. But I never would have thought that anyone actually cared about stuff. Like again, Halt and Catch Fire. Look, how many seasons did that last? Right, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I think the business biopic, particularly in the tech world, have gotten much better since the Social Network. I've got one coming up. I'm going to mention here in a minute, but I want to hear about your podcast. What is it? What do you do on that podcast?
Well, he's got a few
oh, I have
podcasts. Let's
too many podcasts.
get that out of
Okay,
the way.
well, you mentioned one. I didn't hear the others. So
Yeah. So I have a geek podcast where we talk about just geek culture, pop culture, anything that's going on. It's very similar to this show, right?
yeah,
We talk basically what's on TV, video games, any books. We kind of expand. We talk anything that catches our fancy, right? So that's called the It's Canon podcast. We
Okay.
actually had to take a break. Personal reasons. My co-host has been going through a lot of stuff. The other co-host, he was actually arranging a gay pride parade out east in Canada,
Oh.
and he was literally getting death threats. So,
Ah.
just to make sure of stuff,
okay.
we just
All right.
took a bit of a break. Yeah, things up here in Canada aren't much different than in the States. I'll say that much.
I'm sorry.
So yeah, it is. Oh, trust me, it is. But people here are like, oh, it's Canada, we're all great. No.
Mm.
Anyways, so it's Canon podcast, pop culture, and geek reviews, and then there's all of the wrestling shows. And I like to encapsulate everything in the world of Sunday night's main event, SNMEradio.com, where we honestly talk about every aspect of professional wrestling, and I host the Coast to Coast radio show that goes to air every single Sunday, where we try to capture everything that's happening in pro wrestling in 44 minutes.
So, are we keeping you from that? Because it is Sunday.
No. That's done. It's pre-recorded. It is
Okay.
done. It's been shipped. We are good. I'm actually really, really looking forward. I might be jumping the gun a little bit, whatever. There's 2 shows actually that I'm going to start tonight, because this is the first night that I'm actually free in so long.
Oh.
And I'm off a few days this week. I have a lot of American customers, so I'd like to take the American holidays off as well.
Yeah.
So 2 shows.
All right.
Number 1, the Monarch Show.
Yes.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Tommy
seen it just
and
yet.
I have started it. We both really like it so far. 2 episodes in.
Yep. Nice. Very nice.
It is the
And
best.
the other one.
Yeah.
Guys, it looks it. The budget
It looks expensive
great.
as hell.
That's literally it, right? For me, that's how I base shows. How expensive do you look nowadays?
Yeah, but on
Do you look better than movies?
yeah, but on a scale of 1 to Prime Video showing Rings of Power, yes, there is a cost involved. However, it doesn't feel like homework. So that is the key thing right there. So that's why I'm gonna invest in this. Plus the acting prowess that is, and I never thought I'd say these words, the acting prowess of Wyatt and Kurt Russell. That's just genius right there.
That exactly is. That's something that really intrigued me. Like, I love the entire MonsterVerse that's been built, but there's just something about the Russells in this that I'm really interested in. The other show that I'm going to start is, again, one near and dear to my heart because of the comic book, because of the movie, because of Toronto, and that's Scott Pilgrim.
Okay.
Oh, awesome. I'm really looking forward to
Scott
that.
Pilgrim Takes Off on Netflix. Tommy
Yeah.
started it. I have not yet. Tommy likes it so far,
Yeah.
right?
I actually finished it all, and I will say this, spoiler alert, it is much different than the comic and the movie, and I gotta say, it is by far a very interesting take, and more importantly, I love the fact that Michael Cera is somewhat involved, and spoiler alert, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead is more involved. Yay! As her role in Ramona Flowers. That's all I'm going to say on the subject. But if for those of you that have the comic book or even have the movie with Edgar Wright, watch that first, then come to Scott Pilgrim, and you're going to go, "Oh, this is happening," and that's going to be the key thing right there. Which, yeah, it's and the animation is just like Brian Lee O'Malley's comic book format. If you've read the comic, even though it's a book, it's still it's still spot on with that up until the first episode, and then after that, it's like a whole different universe. It's like, what if? That's all I'm gonna say on the subject right there. Yeah. So,
All right.
We're looking forward to it, right? And it's a Toronto factor. It's funny. So when they were filming the movie, I have some friends who were in the movie at various degrees of being in the movie. Some were extras, some were costume designers. I had some people in the cabinet makers and stuff that were in the union that helped build the sets. And my little connection with the movie is that when they were filming that movie back in 2009, Michael Cera spent an extended period of time here, and at the time, through Toronto FC, I was the president of the supporters group, the Red Patch Boys, and we put on a celebrity soccer tournament. We were able to get Michael Cera as one of the celebrities in it, so I spent a lot of time with Michael Cera that summer. We also got it was very interesting. We got a lot of sports celebrities. We got the main what's his name from Weezer.
Rivers Cuomo.
Rivers
Cuomo. Yeah, we were able to get him. Very, very interesting guy.
Wow.
Let me tell you, good guy, but interesting. Very interesting. We were able to get Rivers Cuomo. Very it was this weird mishmash of a lot of celebrities, but Michael Cera was one of the people there, and he was just so awkward. He was the most
so it's not an act
of Michael Cera playing soccer.
So it's not an act. That's just him.
No. Yeah, Tommy, I'll send you a picture of Michael Cera, even in his uniform. It is the most awkward looking thing. It is the strangest thing you've ever seen.
Oh, so on a scale of 1 to welcome to Wrexham, how would you rate that image right there that you're painting for us on the live on air radio?
Oh my God, I don't even know how I would paint it. It's more of a what is going on? Is this real life type of thing? He honestly looks like. It was so weird just because he's just so tall and awkward and lanky, and yeah. He wasn't the worst. He wasn't the worst on the field. I'll say that much. He wasn't that.
No shit.
He wasn't the worst.
All right.
Yeah.
So,
and you might not know it, but we do our own wrestling report here within the show. It's a show within a show, and I don't know if you're intimidated in the presence of a professional, Tommy, but if you have a not soccer. What am I talking about? Fuck soccer. No, wrestling is the only real sport. Yes. You got it ready to go?
Oh, of course I do. And Boris, do you have some stuff you're ready to go with at this point?
Oh, I can make it up on the spot. Tell me where we're going. Tell me. Be my tour guide, and I'll happily join you.
Well, I will be happy to take you along. Grab my hand as he hits the music.
It's sports with Tommy Milagro. Go team!
From the sports desk of the TV10 podcast, we deliver to you only the sport of professional wrestling. Now, tag team edition with the Killer B, Boris Aguilar. Sorry, I don't know what other nickname you want to go with here, man. But all kidding aside, we are coming off Full Gear pay-per-view by AEW, All Elite Wrestling. Now, Boris, I know you covered a little bit of it. What are some of the highlights you can talk about with the pay-per-view that you noticed?
Some of the highlights for me obviously the women's division expanding a little more. Some of those youngsters are growing up. The Sky Blues of the world, the Julia Harts of the world. Awesome to see Julia Hart winning her first title and being the youngest champion in AEW history. Man, we're prepping the ballot for the best worst of 2023, and it's hard for me not to add Julia Hart as the most improved wrestler,
Agreed.
female wrestler of 2023. Awesome to see that. So that was really cool. And the highlight for me of the entire pay-per-view, and it might not be everyone's cup of tea, and that was the Texas Death match between Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page. Honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of those types of matches, but the intensity, the story that they told in the actual match itself was fantastic. Absolutely loved it. And it was one of those cases of like, what are they going to do next? How is this match actually going to end? And, the way that I gauge my interest in wrestling, my interest in anything, watching TV, wrestling, or what have you, is how often am I checking my phone? And I can tell you that for that middle third of the pay-per-view, including that Texas Death match, I didn't even know that I had a phone.
Yeah.
Like, that's how interested I was in things. So for me, those were the two major highlights of the show. And yeah, those are the two major ones.
Yeah, and I will concur with my colleague here. And of course, you can read about this. We didn't do anything with it, although our esteemed editor John Powell covered that at slamwrestling.net. Oh, by the way, Mr. Frost, I write for Slam Wrestling, and more importantly, and I have an MBA, so
way ahead of you.
That is how the drinking game works here around this parts. But honestly, I said before in the countdown to Vulgar that was going to be the sleeper match, and gosh damn if I was not correct. They pulled out all the stops. Swerve getting the win proves that he is going to be meant for bigger and better things. There was also this other thing with the MJF, your scumbag, not only defending the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships with Samoa Joe, but somehow he got the W over Switchblade Jay White because, let's face it, New Zealanders, they won't do much. We've seen our flag means death. We know how that works. So, hey, I'm better than you, and you know it. No, you're not at this point, Jay White. Just roll with that. And I will just say to that point, pretty good match, pretty good pay-per-view. Wish I could have done better with some TV and maybe punching up some ticket sales overall. But pay-per-views, kudos to you. Which brings me to the next part, which is in the news and rumors section of slamwrestling.net. Quick question, Boris. Did you see the media scrum? Granted, CM Punk wasn't involved there. I'm sorry he's not there, everyone. But did you watch that?
No, unfortunately. So I do the after party, and we run it at the exact same time as the media scrum. We sometimes have someone watching the media scrum and sending us stuff that's happening, but last night didn't really get it. So I did watch bits and pieces and read a few reports after the fact.
Yeah. Well, the big one that came out of the media scrum is that Will Ospreay is now signed with AEW, and the reason was, and this is in the news and rumors section, he had to do what was best for his family, but he did consider bids from various companies. Wonder who he's talking about, WWE. I would never say. Yeah, and also, here's the other interesting thing, and I think I talked about it last time, but I can't remember. Ronda Rousey was featured on Ring of Honor programming as she came to the aid of her bestie, Marina Shafir. But Tony Khan said he is not confirmed Ronda's signed with AEW, but he did announce that he kind of harped on his Continental Classic. So, yeah, AEW is getting another title belt, which is how many belts for that company now, man? I mean,
Too many.
Yeah.
And then you count the ROH titles. Way too many.
Yeah. So, bigger question. Should we care? I'm going to say, compared to what's going on in WWE, that's pretty much,
Yeah, that's
that's all I've.
kind of how I feel, honestly. Like, look, they've kind of pinned themselves into a weird corner with a lot of things. And this Continental Classic tournament, this C1, this American G1, whatever they want to call it. It's weird, especially with the whole Eddie Kingston essentially putting up the ROH and the Strong titles throughout the entire tournament. The tournament ends December 30th. Right in the middle of the entire tournament, you have ROH Final Battle. So it's like, are you telegraphing that Final Battle doesn't matter?
Mhm.
Are you telegraphing that Eddie Kingston's going to go to the finals? Like, to me, they just keep putting themselves in these weird little corners.
Exactly. So it's one of those things of, should we care? And I will say, have you seen what WWE's programming there? And you know your answer right there. So it could be worse, which segues nicely to this next thing. Nikki and Brie Bella, excuse me, the Garcias, they have their. Hold on, let me get some genius juice in the way here. Oh, so geniusy. They have their reality show called Twin Love, and I would love to say more about that, but then, I am very confident I would be dead drunk after a while. However, thank God for our good friend Melissa Merlot. And I roped her into slamwrestling.net. She writes for them. She doesn't have an MBA, by the way, Mr. Frost. But
I'm going to drink anyway.
I know you are. So, but basically, if you haven't read it, and it is, I believe, in our social medias here, she titles it Garcia's Twin Love, Chaotic and Cringy. And you gotta love this as a start here. Just when you thought it was safe, the Twinavision continues. Yes, that's right. The Bella Twins are back, though now they are Brie and Nikki Garcia, and are acting as Tinder in human form on the new show Twin Love. It is a dating show for twins only. What could possibly go wrong with that? I would highly recommend.
And
yeah,
this is on Bravo. This is not on Bravo or E. This is
Not on
on
Bravo.
the unlikely place of Prime Video.
yeah. So
Not a lot of reality shows on Prime Video. So how could they not rise to the top over there?
right?
Exactly.
Ah,
It's not like Amazon doesn't spend enough money on Thursday Night Football for shitty games. So.
brilliantly said. Thank you, sir. And I think I'm trying to figure out where I need to end it on. And well, I think I'm going to end it on two things here. So I'm going to first start with WWE, just in time for Thanksgiving, because you really don't want to talk to your weird uncle about anything going on with the Jewish space lasers or whatever. It's Survivor Series. Yes, that is that time of the year where WWE is going to pull out the stops. And here's where it gets really interesting, because WWE is going to, instead of their traditional Survivor Series, they're going to have War Games. And what's big about this War Games here? I answer, it's going to be the women in War Games. Basically, it's just two rings surrounded by a cage, with, what is it, four member teams. They go into the ring at a time. But the big part is, yes, Virginia, you are correct. The man is back. That's Becky Lynch. She is going to be part of War Games right there. And I think there's something else going on in there, maybe a title match. Do you know anything more about that, Boris? Or have you said anything on your podcast?
So we have the two War Games. Yeah, so we have the two War Games matches. The women's, which is 4-on-4, the men's 5-on-5. Those matches are long enough. Each will probably be about an hour, so that's 2 hours right there. The other matches you have, yeah, exactly. You have Rhea Ripley taking on Zoe Stark, which is a match that I'm actually really looking forward to. You also have Gunther taking on The Miz for the IC title. You know, Gunther's going to win that one. I can tell you that one for sure. You also have Santos Escobar, who is now on his own after betraying the LWO, taking on Carlito, since Rey Mysterio's probably gone for a few months.
What he's talking about, everyone, is that Rey Mysterio has had to have leg surgery, I think, on his knee, and
Meniscus. Yep.
and it was they wrote it into the storyline, but he's been working hurt for a while. I think it's the same knee problem he's had, so probably we won't see him until maybe, possibly WrestleMania. So we'll talk about that when it comes up, I guess. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. But finally, this one, this is a good place to end it on, and that is Dave Marquez. Now, I know Bill Frost is not familiar with him. Boris, you know Dave Marquez when I mention the name?
Yep.
So,
yep.
He is, he's basically the man who's been running Championship from Wrestling as well as the United Wrestling Network. He's pretty much the man to talk to about TV studio wrestling. He has mentioned on social media, yeah, he was in negotiations with the CW network, but he wasn't talking about it. Interestingly enough, he decided to go on Facebook to talk about it, which that's a different story. So I'm just going to read a little bit from this, and I'll go from there. Basically, he said, since the WWE NXT CW announcement was made public, seen so many uneducated statements about the CW network itself, which, let's face it, it's the CW network. Any educated guess is going to be uneducated. Now, over the air broadcast television isn't as popular as it once was, but soon I predict its popularity will return. Since the mid-1990s, wrestling fans have been conditioned to think that a wrestling program could only be successful if it has a licensing deal with cable television, and to a degree, this is true, but not in all cases. Both WWE and WCW had nationally syndicated series on your local TV station while still appearing on USA Network or WTBH, which, by the way, was local channel 17 in Atlanta. The reason for this was because the country wasn't completely wired for cable television, and to promote upcoming events and characters, the syndicated shows help fill in the gaps. These programs are called barter because the producer trades commercial time with the local stations in return for the weekly time slot. I do this still today with my programming. Local stations do not pay for the 52 annual episodes. That is on the producer of the series. WOW, that's Women of Wrestling, is a different situation. They are funded by Viacom and distributed by CBS Studios. Also, local television are not public access. I have seen this statement a lot from people talking about the network. He kind of goes on to this, but basically what Dave Marquez is trying to say is, yeah, you think you really know about, if this wrestling show was on this station, problem solved. No, it is not that. He kind of goes into the weeds on this. This is inside baseball. I think we will try to get this on our social media platforms, if only because, wrestling, like podcasting, is a whole form where nobody's dumping money our way, although they should because we're genius. And more importantly, it's sports.
It's sports at Tommy Milagro. Go team. See, we spare no production value here whatsoever.
As opposed to you spend all the production value with your podcast. So basically, we bow to you, sir.
And there was one in the while we were on the topic of BlackBerry over the weekend, I watched another. There's been just a proliferation of these business biopics, specifically around tech. And one of the ones I saw, one of the most recent ones over the weekend, was Dumb Money, about the GameStop, the short squeeze or whatever on Wall Street. It is so good. Seth Rogen is in it, but barely in it. It's mostly what is the guy's name?
Paul Dano.
Paul Dano, yes, and Pete Davidson. He's like
Yeah.
really hilarious in this. That's just his dirtbag DoorDash driver, his brother. Vincent D'Onofrio, Nick Offerman is fantastic in this. Sebastian Stan, I never recognized him until takes me about 5 minutes to recognize Sebastian Stan in any role because he just kind of slips into it and you don't really notice him. And he's like one of the founders of Robin Hood. And it's just I highly recommend this. It's like it moves really quickly. It doesn't get you out in the weeds of business talk or everything. It just gives you as plain an explanation as possible as to what the hell was going on in 2020 and 2021 with the GameStop stocks. And yeah, watch it. It's fucking great.
Oh man! All right,
It's really good.
I would just say, yeah, it's also good because, and I had a friend of mine tell me that his wife bought into GameStop and made a killing after.
Really? Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. Which is funny because my best friend was like, I don't think there's value in GameStop, and then she cleaned house with like 3,000, and she was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Some people did, some people didn't.
Yeah. Obviously not anybody with a hedge fund, that's for damn certain.
Yeah.
Right.
My recommendation is to watch harder as we near the end of the hour here. Definitely Dumb Money. It's on video on demand right now. You'll have to pay something for it, but it's worth it. Also, Calling from Accounts over on Paramount Plus. Stupidly cute. The Curse on Showtime. Just cringe-tastic. Nathan Fielder. I don't know if he's acting or if he's just being Nathan Fielder.
That first episode is intense as all
Yes.
intense can be. It's up there with the Bear Christmas episode.
Yeah.
season 2.
Which
Well
is a
said.
high bar. That is a high bar to clear.
Also,
Sure.
don't watch that during the Thanksgiving weekend. That's just not the way to go.
No,
Goes
no.
without saying.
Avoid it.
Well,
And also Monarch Legacy of Monsters on Apple TV Plus.
yeah.
So far, so great. And Boris, anything you would heartily recommend someone watch? If you could give them just a few couple of examples of stuff you say, you may not know this, but you should watch this.
Honestly, something that I completely missed the airing of it, so I'm catching up right now on Disney Plus, and that's Welcome to Wrexham season 2.
Oh,
Yes.
It's such a fun little show, even if you don't give a crap about soccer,
Which is me.
you don't need to.
I watched the whole thing.
But that's the thing, right? You don't need to care about soccer. It's kind of like the Beckham documentary, right? You don't need to care about these people to
Mhm.
find it intriguing because the stories that they're telling
Yeah.
are about the people as opposed to the sport or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So for sure I would recommend Welcome to Wrexham. It's so interesting seeing how they try to kind of whitewash and make it seem like what they're doing is this amazing thing
Mhm.
when in reality there's so many issues attached to what's going
Yeah.
on politically. Let's not even get started with the fact that they're in Wales, right? And the whole UK situation, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then you have these guys who kind of don't really understand the rules. And they kind of did explore that a little bit in the early parts of season 2. But especially that episode when Sean goes on vacation. But yeah, it's a fun little quirky show. If you like Ryan Reynolds, if you like his stupidity, then Welcome to Wrexham's a great show for you.
Yes.
Yeah, that is on here in America. That is on Hulu, but Hulu is, I think, as early as next month is going to become part of Disney Plus anyway. Just wholly outright, it's just going to be
Mhm.
like a little square within your Disney Plus.
That's
So yeah,
we don't have Hulu. It's all being branded as Stars. Like
Okay.
even the Bear,
Oh,
right.
it's
Yeah.
branded as a Stars show.
Yeah.
I got my
And,
issues with stars, and you know what you did to heels? Go into the corner until you learn your lesson. Anyway, I'm fine now.
Anyway, what do you got, Tommy? Anything you want to tell the people about?
Other than Scott Pilgrim and maybe avoid stars, you know what you did. I would also recommend watching Invincible. My God, that is the best show, not for kids, obviously. Oh God, is that not for kids? Boris is
Oh, yeah.
shaking his head like, no.
But But that's a classic issue, right? I call it the anime issue, where just because it's animated, people here in North America used to automatically assume it's for kids.
No.
Next thing you know, right, you're getting some insane scenes and this and that on anime shows, and
Harley Quinn.
Invincible. Bingo. That's a perfect example, right? And Invincible, just such a good show. I'm so happy that that Kirkman comic was turned into a cartoon, not a show.
Yeah.
We all saw what happened to Jupiter's Legacy, right? Like, I personally love the show, but Netflix being Netflix.
Yeah.
Yes.
We know what Netflix did. You got in your corner until you learn what you did to Glow. Anyway, Scott Pilgrim is the other thing I would say watch harder for right now, as well as Onimusha and Blue Eye Samurai. Got into an animated thing here. Those are the things I'm going to say you got to watch a little harder right now. So,
all right. On that note, I'm gonna say goodnight, America. Boris, say goodnight to the good people, and Tommy, take us out.
Well, before we take us out, I would like to say, first of all,
little sponsor love.
Yeah,
get to the sponsor.
You gotta sponsor our good friend Sugar House Distillery, the fine purveyors of the American single malt whiskey, as well as the can that Mr. Frost is enjoying there and is probably drained at this point after our sports report. And
mostly,
it's going to be everything at this point. But also give love to our other sponsors like Outlaw Distillery here in Utah. Then there's Ogden's Own Distillery, the fine purveyors of Five Wives, Five Husbands Vodka, Madame Patarini Gin, Porter's Fire, Porter's Peanut Butter Whiskey, because screw you, Screwball, and the Underground. And also, they have cans as well. Mr. Frost loves to enjoy their Huckleberry Lemonade porters in a can right there. And
it's very refined.
Oh, yes. We have a refined taste, which, by the way, Boris, if you need me to send something, I'll be happy to do so. I will also say we have Bohemian Brewery. If you want to drink beer, I like beer. Why don't you like beer? Well, I'm not a Supreme Court justice. There's a reason for that. And I would say, oh, look at this. I am wearing the TV10 Podcast t-shirt right here. If you're looking at this in the Teddy Bear Nanny Cams, that's for our Cubic Zirconia sponsors, by the way. You can get this shirt. There's a few left for only $10. $10 right there, just for your Black Friday. You could get that deal. Send us an email, tv10podcast@gmail.com, subject line, t-shirt me now, and just put your name, your address, your shirt size, and if you prefer to pay us in PayPal or Venmo or just dump money into us. What about crypto? No, we don't do crypto. Fuck you in crypto. So it's just not going to happen right there. So with that, anything else you want to add to that, Boris or Bill?
I'm good. I'm just saying. All right.
So we're done here?
Then thank you. Thanks for being here.
Happy Thanksgiving. And now I will say officially, yes, you, sir, jiggle that handle. All right, off you fuck.
Son, Papa Squad, you're the last person on earth that I would let run this store. I don't know why you want this. You don't like the outdoors. Remember Boy Scouts? The only badge you got was in diversity and inclusion.
It's really important.
Dying of exposure in the woods? Oh, Larry, I've got my diversity and inclusion badge.
Well, what if you're dying from exposure to hatred?
Do you know that every day of my life, I've killed a living thing?
Are you serious?
Yeah, I punched a field mouse 3 weeks ago.
I would give a bobcat the finger if that's something,
They don't care.
Dad, I just need a little more time to prove myself.
More time? You're 26. Kids today prove themselves when they're like 12. Have you seen Stranger Things? The kids on that show are insanely talented.
What are you talking about?
I think you're just seeing the glass as not having enough water in it, as opposed to having more than an adequate amount of water.
That's not how the saying goes. Glass half full versus glass half empty.
Yeah, well, your generation loves to shorten everything till it makes no fucking sense.